sorry.
It's okay, really.
Hey, howdy, hey, lovebirds. Wolfman47 here. So, with Valentine's Day coming up in a few days at the time of this upload, I decided to share with you my crushes. Not like crushes as in like real life people or anything. Crushes as in characters that I kind of have a crush on that are in animation, video games, and also some real life actors and actresses. Many of these I know I have probably no chance of ever pursuing the crush. And you know what? That's fine. Some of these, sometimes it's just best to just say you have a crush on this person and then don't pursue it. Just leave it at that. So yeah. So there's going to be quite a few names. So there's going to be 4 different lists I'm going to read from, all 14 characters or real life people. And because I'm into men and women, as some of you who have subscribed to me for a while will know, there will be a list for females and a list for males. So there'll be a list for female characters in video games and animation, a list for male characters in video games and animation, and then 2 further lists, one for actresses and one for actors. And if this video does well, I might do this again next year for Valentine's Day. So yeah, and don't worry, there is going to be a bit of flesh that's going to be shown, but all the images that I'm going to put onto this video have been cropped. So there will be a bit of flesh, but nothing that's going to cause YouTube to question or demonetize or have this video blocked or anything. So relax, YouTube and the rest of you. So right, so we're going to start with females that are from animation and video games, and first one on my list is Lucy Heartfilia. So this is a character from Fairy Tail who is a celestial spirit wizard. So she has the ability to collect keys and use the keys to open doors to allow a celestial spirit that's based on a celestial constellation to temporarily help her in her fights. Unlike most celestial wizards in the show, which usually use celestial spirits as slaves and so forth, Lucy just prefers to work side by side with them as partners. And this has ultimately led her to sort of develop her own skills over time and be able to wear different suits and so forth to enhance her abilities in the fights against the forces of evil in the world of Fairy Tail. As a character, she is fair, she's caring, she's loving. She does feel a bit vulnerable in certain points and doesn't appreciate when her home gets invaded. And also, even though she doesn't take her clothes off all that often, as much as another character I'm going to talk about, which I did a character study on, if you may recall, she did have moments where she did have her clothes off, including one of the Fairy Tail films, which was because she was wearing a towel and it just fell off and she didn't realise. So, you know, it happens. Another time where Dragon used his ability to sort of remove clothes from various characters and found her tasty and removed her clothes. And then just a few times and then there was at least one time where she did actually decide to take them off because there was an enemy in her bath that was having a bath, and she decided to have a bath with that person. But that aside, she's not just a pretty face, she's loving, caring, fair, good looking, is the butt of a lot of people's opinions on how she dresses and the fact that she is quite busty looking. But overall, nice character and definitely one that I do have a lot of admiration for, as well as have a bit of a crush on. So that's Lucy Heartfilia. Now a lot of people have this person in all their lists of the hottest video game females of all time, and I do as well. It's Lara Croft from Tomb Raider, but not any particular version of Lara Croft. But not just any particular version of Lara Croft. I'm not talking about the OG Lara Croft. I'm not talking about the Lara Crofts from the films. The Lara Croft I'm talking about is the reboot Lara Croft, who was seen in the 2013 Tomb Raider game, as well as the 2 sequels it spawned, so Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. As a character, she is good looking, And in the first game, you can definitely tell that she's very vulnerable, very scared, and just wants to escape the island that has this curse that's not letting them leave. But as the first game goes on, she does sort of become a bit more brave, a bit more heroic, and kind of accepts that she's not going to be able to save everybody. And although she does end up saving 3 people in the end, spoilers. But yeah, she does eventually save people, and then in the later games, she does continues to try and do what she can to find what she's looking for and sort of prevent forces of evil from interfering. And as a character, she is very well developed. There's a lot of great character development throughout the 3 games that this particular Lara Croft appears in, and she is very good looking and probably has like a sort of average build for a person that's physically doing a lot of climbing and so forth. But yeah, I like that particular Lara Croft as a character. Definitely a well developed one for sure. So on to the Disney princess territory. Now, often when you hear about Disney princesses, most of them are damsel in distresses and often have to wait for heroes to go rescue them and so forth. But not for Mulan. Mulan is very different. She's one of the few Disney princesses that actually doesn't need a prince to save her. She's independent, she does her own thing, and she even goes out of her way to sort of prove to her dad that she can fight, and it shouldn't never be a whole sexist thing where only the men should fight. We live in a day and age now where sexism is still a thing, not as bad as it used to be, but it is still a thing to a lot of people, and everybody should be able to do the same jobs. I mean, you can't exactly expect just for a job for one gender to be that for the whole time. We live in an age where males, females, transgender, and everybody else can do anything and everything. And Mulan is a good example of that. She wants to fight for the army, and she does just that, albeit disguised as a male. But she does it. She does eventually gets exposed as being a female, but she does prove herself and ultimately wins the respect and the respect of everybody in China for saving them from the Huns. So we give her that, yeah. And I do like her as a character as well. So yeah. Next is Starfire. Now, the version of Starfire I'm going with is the OG Starfire from the original Teen Titans animated series. This was the first time that the Teen Titans actually looked like teenagers. So none of this comic book looks that make you question whether they look like teenagers or not. No, these all look like teenagers. Now, it was difficult to pick between her and Raven because they're both good looking. And while Raven's very moody and does have some vulnerabilities, but is nevertheless able to defend herself, Starfire is a little bit different. They're both kind of different because Raven's sort of like on the negative area, whereas Starfire is more on the positive area. And I just love her personality. She has a wonderful way of seeing the world, and she's very good looking. And yeah, okay, she might have a thing for Robin, or it's the other way around. Robin has a thing for him, and she is an alien. But she is what she is. She just has a wonderful way of seeing the world, and it's quite funny when the only way she's able to sort of speak a native person's language is by kissing them. So, but that's fine. That's fine being kissed by someone that's very good looking. No, I'd have nothing wrong with that. So, yeah, Starfire, amazing character, and definitely the sort of probably not the heart and soul of the team, but definitely the one that tries to keep positive things alive, even when the odds are very much against them. So that's Starfire. So sticking with DC, next is Poison Ivy. Now, Poison Ivy is, by all accounts, a beautiful character. In that she is one of the few Arkham Asylum inmates that I don't think is necessarily evil per se. She's not like very much evil in the sense that she wants to destroy Batman or the world or whatever. She's more like she wants to protect her clients, if anything, but ultimately because of the accident that happens to her and everything, that she ultimately does become evil because she's trying to protect her plants, and this ultimately leads into a lot of crimes being committed. Most depictions of her see her as a villain, allied with various other villains, but the two versions of her that I particularly like are her in the Arkham video games and in the Harley Quinn animated series. In the Arkham video games, she initially is a villain and starts out as such, but is mostly wanting to just protect her plants, and that's it. Nothing more than that. Even giving into the Titan formula that Joker gives her in the first game. In the second game, she uses her plants to help Catwoman, but Catwoman betrays her. And then in the third game, she basically is at the point where she has no interest in killing Batman, but will nevertheless try and deal with him anyway. But ultimately, he puts her in the GCPD lockup, only to release her later on in an attempt to help to stop the fear gas. And this is basically the point where she actually becomes a redeemed hero, in that she actually does successfully stop the fear gas from spreading across all of Gotham using her plants. But it does come at the cost of her own life. So a heroic sacrifice indeed. And as for her appearance in Harley Quinn, sorry, that sounds wrong. And for her appearance in the Harley Quinn animated series, she supports Harley Quinn, and they ultimately become a lesbian couple. So she's definitely a caring one in that one. Not just caring for her plants, but caring about Harley Quinn as well. So Poison Ivy, as beautiful as as beautiful as she's meant to be, and yeah, all that. Enough said about her. Moving on to Marvel now, it's Gwen Stacy. So Gwen Stacy from the Spider-Verse films. Initially she's quite fond of Miles Morales, and they both have a close bond. And some people believe that it might have a sort of thing going about them, but then some of us forget that Miles Morales is one of those people that could not care less about what others think of him. He just wants to do his own thing. Even says that with the Spider Society. And Gwen is loyal to Miles, but does feel very guilty in the second film when she tries to stop him from doing what he's trying to do. And I'm actually quite relieved that she does actually feel that she needs to redeem herself by going out of her way to go save Miles. And as a character, she is well developed. She definitely has vulnerabilities, and she is good looking in a way as well. She's probably the best take on Gwen Stacy I've seen so far. I know Spider-Woman as Gwen Stacy was introduced before Spider-Verse ever happened, but the whole idea was popularized thanks to her appearance in Spider-Verse. So, and I'm glad that she's given more purpose as a spider character rather than just be another damsel in distress that occasionally helps Spider-Man, but not very much. So, yeah, that's Gwen Stacy. So now, when people put Frozen characters into their list, some would say that you have to include both Elsa and Anna as a package. But personally, I don't really do that. I just prefer Anna. And the reason I prefer Anna is because I love her positive energy. I love how caring she is, and I love how out of the way she goes to help save her sister and protect her, while also being oblivious to the fact that Kristoff has a thing for her. I do kind of feel quite annoyed that she didn't quite pick up that Hans was using her in the first one, but yeah, I still like her as a character. Very interesting, very, very pretty, and definitely determined to get stuff done. So that's her. Sticking with Disney, next is Rapunzel. Much like with Mulan, Rapunzel is another sort of Disney princess who tries to be independent and ultimately is able to not really get a hero to sort of help her escape her mum, who's the main villain of the film Tangled. No, instead she makes her own way out, and eventually does come across the prince of the film, which is Flynn Rider. But yeah, she doesn't go any further than that. She she works with him and has fun with him, just exploring the world outside the tower, ultimately defeating her mother, or as the memes go about it, how let Sora, Donald, and Goofy from Kingdom Hearts deal with her. But yeah, I like Rapunzel. She's funny. She's quirky. Got a bit of sass to her, and definitely one that will refuse to stay in a place for too long. And that's the thing I like. So yeah, that's Rapunzel. Carrying on with Disney, Jane Porter. Now, Jane Porter's not an official Disney princess. In fact, most characters that should be Disney princesses are not official Disney princesses, which is a bit kind of bad or rubbish and all that. But I think Jane Porter doesn't really need to be a princess. She can be a damsel in distress, but isn't so much damsel in distress in the Tarzan film that she appears in. She's more of a character that loves Tarzan and will go out of her way to sort of help Tarzan learn about humans and so forth, and yeah, and a bunch of other stuff too. She ultimately does try to convince him to come home with her to the human world, but she ultimately decides to stay with him in the jungle. And as someone who's very British in pretty much all the ways, she's all right for a character. Yeah. Now we come to a villain now, and the villain I've picked for this list is Azula. Azula is a firebender from Avatar: The Last Airbender, not to be confused with the James Cameron films of the same name. Had to make sure I didn't get confused with him and the former Tory Prime Minister there. But anyway, Azula is, by all accounts, a very powerful firebender who is very much goes with the ways that the firebenders always go. They think anger is the only way that can help them achieve their goals. And even though she is quite a powerful foe, she does ultimately get defeated. But I do like her as a character. She's quite wicked. Probably has very little humanity inside her, but is overall a very wicked character and one that should not be meddled with. And I think out of all the sort of female characters, she is, to me at least, the most good looking. And I like her being wicked, I like her being evil, and I like how mad and insane she gets towards the end to try and achieve power. So yeah, that's her. So going to Final Fantasy territory now, Tifa Lockhart. So this is another character that does appear a lot on a lot of people's video game lists. Playing with her in the Final Fantasy VII remake. Yeah, I've not really played the original much, so yeah. Outside of her being busty and looking, she is a nice character. She's very caring. Does what she can to help her friends in the fights that they face, and she's a bit of a fighter herself. You know, I think it's, if I recall, it's more of a boxing and so forth. But anyway, she's a good fighter, and at the end of the Final Fantasy VII remake, she's actually one of the few final protagonists that you get to play as in the end, and yeah, she's an interesting character and good fun to play as, and yeah. Yeah, that's yeah. If I had played the original video game before playing the remake, I would have had more to say about her, but I don't. So yeah, if I ever do a character study of her, I will definitely play the original game beforehand. So yeah, that's Tifa. Now, when you think of Scooby-Doo, some people would usually go to Daphne as the sort of character that they prefer as being the hotter, good-looking character they have a crush on. But for me, it's actually Velma that I like. And not the Velma that has been like the subject of controversy recently. No, the original Velma, the OG one that's the brains of the group, and often the one that has to come up with not necessarily come up with the plans, but usually has input in the plans. And yeah, she's often a very overlooked character, and I like her in most of her appearances. I don't really like the opinions she has on things like when they return to Zombie Island and then she says that it wasn't actually all real and all that, because it's a bit weird, but anyway, I like her as a character. She's very nerdy, very very smart, and I do like people that are smart and all that, and have a bit of sass and quirks and wit to them, and she's definitely that. So that's Velma. Next is Princess Peach. Now she is a damsel in distress for the most part, but I think the thing that Nintendo often overlook is that in a few games where it's not like the AAA Mario game, the ones that everybody plays, the ones that Nintendo have a major input in, um, there are some games where she actually does do stuff. So in the Paper Mario games, for example, she is actually trying to help Mario while she's been stuck in a castle or wherever she's stuck in. In the more recent 3D platforming and even the latest Super Mario Brothers game, she's one of the characters you get to play as. So I think Nintendo have definitely realised that Princess Peach is more than just a damsel in distress. So much so that she even has not one but two games that are all about her, which have kind of helped in helping her become a character in Super Smash Brothers. I wish Waluigi was in there, but we're not getting him anytime soon. And I like in the film that she's basically kicking some butt, and she actually gives in to Bowser with good reason rather than just gives in to Bowser straight away like in the video games. So yeah, that I do like Princess Peach when she's being confident fighting, and I just don't like her when she's just a damsel in distress and doesn't do anything apart from being a damsel in distress. Well, she might bake a cake or two, but yeah, that's her. And the last one on this list is a total drama character called Lindsay. So out of the few female busty looking characters in Total Drama, she is the one that I actually like the most. She might be a bit of a dimwit in places and so forth, but sometimes being a dimwit can be a bit attractive. I like the sort of bandana she has on her hair. I like how she looks and appears, and I like the way she talks. And yeah, she is a bit of a dimwit, but sometimes a dimwit, as I say, can be an attractive thing to some people. So yeah. So that's the list of female characters in animation and video games that I have a crush on. So now we move on to the male characters, and first up is Zuko. I can't remember. Anyway, so this is a firebending character from Avatar: The Last Airbender. He's got a scar on his eye. I don't know if that's the right way. It probably isn't, depending on how you see the video. But anyway, he does have a scar on his eye. He has had moments where he's shirtless. So yeah, fan service there. And he sort of like has a progression in each season. So in the first season, he's the main antagonist. In the second season, he is a delusionist. So he's sort of conflicted between whether he should remain as a bad guy or a good guy. And then in the third and final season, he is a good guy. Because he actually realizes that ultimately his destiny isn't to be the his destiny isn't meant to be a firebender. It is to be the teacher of Aang, which he eventually comes to accept. And although he does try to win over the trust of people, there are a few episodes where he does go on a little quest with each of the protagonists to help them, and then that ultimately leads them to trust him, and he becomes a big help in the fight against Azula. I know a lot of people think that him and Katana should be a thing, but they were not a thing. It was always her and Aang, and that's the end of it. But yeah, Zuko's an interesting character. Love his scar. Love his character arc, and yeah, lot to like about this very character that is conflicted. So yeah. Going back to nerdy territory, Milo Thatch. So this character appeared in the sort of underrated but also not perfect Disney film Atlantis: The Lost Empire. He plays the main protagonist as a sort of nerdy character that wants to find the lost city of Atlantis and is able to do that thanks to a generous funder who happened to know his dad. And he is a bit oblivious to trying to figure out, oblivious to who's actually the villain. And there are parts of him that do make some people question his common sense and so forth. But overall, he's all right for a character. He's not like a typical Disney prince hero, and I like how in the film the sort of princess character, they don't kiss or anything; they just hug, and I quite like that. And he does sort of start to grow some guts towards the end in the final conflict, and sort of leads the charge in trying to save Atlantis from falling. And so yeah, he's got a lot of quirks about him, but he isn't of a muscular build, very slender looking, I'd say. But he's definitely a fun character to be around, even though he is a bit of a geek. I'm a geek, so I can relate. So going back to video games, Nintendo video games, there's Link. Now, Link is a silent protagonist, always has been, and probably always will be. The most he says is "yeah" and all that. But I kind of do like him as a character, and especially in the sort of later Legend of Zelda video games, where you get to customize his looks and appearance, and just do the silly thing of seeing how he copes without much on in hot and cold temperatures. Overall, he is a very brave character, adventurous. Will go out of his way to help save Hyrule. He's one of 3 people to hold a piece of the Triforce, as far as I know. I could be wrong about that. And yeah, he is a great character, definitely a well-developed character. Would love to hear him talk, but he is what he is. So that's Link. So returning to Disney, there's Aladdin. Now, of the many Disney prince characters that are out there, Aladdin's appearance is actually very, very accurate. Like, often when you see a poor person, you would expect them to not be wearing too much or wearing things that look a bit scruffy looking and so forth. And Aladdin is definitely the perfect embodiment of a poor character. He's wearing a little cap on his head. He's wearing a sort of vest torso, but nothing underneath. And his trousers are very baggy and so forth. So definitely the perfect look for a poor person. Unlike in the remake, where he actually looks like he is a bit more richer. I don't know if Disney wanted to stick to the original look or wanted to do a different look, but yeah, he doesn't look all that poor looking in the remake. But anyway, he kind of sort of does know what he wants in life, but he does feel very conflicted about how he wants to go about it. And I like when characters feel conflicted, like they really want something, but aren't too sure about if that's actually truly what they want. And I like that, but in the end, he does eventually fulfill the wishes they want to fulfill. Like, he becomes a prince for a little while, gets saved by the genie, and then releases the genie, and still in the end gets what he wants. He gets the girl, and the rest is history. The animated film's definitely a lot better than the remake for sure. Remake does have some good parts, but excuse me, but overall is definitely not really worth it. But yeah, I like Aladdin. Very conflicted, good looking, and maybe if he wasn't very poor, he probably would have been wearing more than just a vest on his torso, but it's fine. But I do question why the animators decided not to give him any sort of nipples. Like, you see Tarzan have nipples, you see Milo have nipples. I don't think I've seen Hercules shirtless, but yeah, just feels a bit weird. Yeah, anyway. So returning to Teen Titans, next is Beast Boy. Now, out of the male characters in the Teen Titans team, Beast Boy I feel is just the cutest. He's cute, he's He's cute. He is lovable. He turns into sort of all kinds of different animals. And he never really, and he doesn't usually take stuff all too seriously, but when he does try his best to help the team the best he can, and he's just adorable. Yeah, not much else to him. Out of the two versions, there's probably just not really much comparison, because him in the OG Teen Titans and in Teen Titans Go, they're basically the same person. Adorable, try to be animals, and just are oblivious to a lot of different things. They just do whatever. So yeah, that's Beast Boy. Now, you might recall me doing a character study on Grateful Buster, so I'll just say briefly what I think of him here, and then if you want to go in depth more about Grateful Buster, go to my video on him. But anyway, Grateful Buster is another character from Fairy Tail. He is a nice wizard. Usually is very calm and cool, level-headed. Often does go into fights with Natsu, and does have the very unusual habit of taking his clothes off. Usually, most of the time, it's just his top half that he takes off. But he's not really ugly looking character. He's actually quite good looking. He's got muscles and abs and everything. So yeah, that's Grateful Buster for you. If you want to see more of what I think about him, go to the character study video I did on him, which I did last month. So yeah, that's him. Returning to Tangled, there is Flynn Rider, or whatever his actual real name is. I actually forgot. He's not really a Prince character, I'd say. He's more of a character that just happened to bump into Rapunzel and helps Rapunzel get to where she needs to go, and they do end up having a thing for one another. So in that sense, Flynn Rider is just that. I do kind of have a thing for him though, because before I managed to finally decide what sexuality I am, I did sort of stare at a lot of shirtless pictures of him. He's quite a good looking character, even though he is a bit of a thief, a bit of a liar in places, and yeah, but he does have a redeemable arc, and he does actually make the ultimate sacrifice to save Rapunzel in the end. So yeah, I'll give him all that, and that's why I've got a crush on him. So yeah, moving on. So now we go to DreamWorks, and we go to Hiccup. Now, Hiccup is the protagonist of the How to Train Your Dragon series. He's not really a sort of character of a muscular build, but he does become maturer as the films go on. And he starts off as a bit of a dork, bit of a nerd character that is not really sort of Viking material, but ultimately does learn how to tame a dragon, and actually changes how people see dragons. And that's kind of a big thing, because in that universe there's lots of people that want to be rid of the dragons, and people that want to coexist with dragons, and people that would rather try and help dragons, and all sorts of things. And ultimately Hiccup realizes that until this conflict is resolved, the dragons will never be safe. So he ends up doing what he does in the third film. And the thing I think is most attractive about him is just how fair he is, how nice he is, and just how understanding he tries to be with his dragon. He has a good bond with his dragon, and it kind of reminds me of my bond with my dog. Because, yeah, that's what I like about him. So, sticking with DreamWorks, next we have Jack Frost. Now, I did talk a lot about Jack Frost in my Rise of the Guardians video. So if you want to know more about him, go to that video. But to sum him up, he is a holiday character that is known for snow days. And he is the subject of a lot of people's fantasies of seeing him shirtless, and sometimes with Hiccup. But he's a well-developed character who never really wanted to become a holiday character to begin with, and does have a bit of a tragic story behind it. But he's a nice character and good-looking as well. Bit of a slender build, but he has fun. He likes to have fun, and that's what I like to do. I like to have fun. So that's Jack Frost. Now, we return to Disney, or technically Marvel, depending on how you see it, with Big Hero 6 now for Tadashi Hamada. Now, Tadashi doesn't appear in the film a lot. In fact, he appears for much of the beginning of the first half, and then he goes into fire and he ultimately dies trying to save people. But he, as a character, he's got a bit of a muscular build to him and very attractive to a lot of people. And I would have liked to see a bit more of him, but the sacrifice he makes is ultimately the right sacrifice, even though it does kind of feel like it was all for nothing because the people inside the place that was burning down to the ground actually escaped. But I like him as a character in a way. So yeah, that's him. Terry McGinnis, the Batman of Batman Beyond. He's nice. He's good looking. He has a bit of a tough voice to him, but voice aside, he is nice, good looking, and unlike Bruce Wayne, he does actually want to find love, and he does eventually find love in the end. And the whole Batman Beyond series is a good series. It definitely sort of introduces a lot of new things to the Batman mythos, and even became part of the mainstream mainstream DC universe in the comics, which is a good thing. And yeah, I like Terry McGinnis. He's a good successor to the OG Bruce Wayne Batman. Obviously, nothing can't quite compare to Bruce Wayne as Batman, but he's a good a good successor to him, who is young, good looking, and a good fighter, and pretty much follows the same morals and principles that Bruce Wayne has as a character. So that's him. Going to Kingdom Hearts now, Damex. Now, there is a lot of good-looking and attractive male characters in the Kingdom Hearts games, and although I could have picked any one of them, I ultimately went for one character that I feel is quite underrated and a bit of a joke character, which is Damex. And the reason why I went with him as a crush is because he plays guitar, and he's one of those characters that just appears out of nowhere in Kingdom Hearts 2, and then in Kingdom Hearts 3, he again doesn't really do. He's not really much of a villain. He's part of the organization, but he doesn't really do much in the way of being evil. He would much rather stick around playing with his guitar, and that kind of became. And that ultimately led him to have a sort of redemption arc in Kingdom Hearts 3 where he helps the hero parts. So yeah, not really much else to say about him, and I do kind of wonder what's under those cloaks, because it does often appear as if they may be not wearing much or anything at all under those cloaks, and so yeah, a bit of a vulnerability if they take them off. So yeah. Right, so now we come to Dante from Devil May Cry. He's a wisecracker. He has one-liners. People love him, and people love him, and I kind of have a soft spot for the Dante in the game DMC Devil May Cry. I know a lot of you aren't too keen on that particular one because of some things that were done and said in that particular game, but I kind of have a soft spot for him because he has a sort of good looking face and does sort of look like how a game made by a Western company would look. And he's one of the few characters that had the balls to basically appear naked in the very first opening scene, which is quite something to behold. Obviously, unless of course it's one of those video games where you create a character and basically decide to not add the character, not wear too much. So that's Dante, a wisecracker, but regardless of which version of him you play as, I think they're both kind of the same in a way, but obviously some people will prefer one and some people prefer the other. I lean towards the one in DMC Devil May Cry just because of how good looking he is and how conflicted he is on how to save how to stop demons and so forth. But I do like the other one as well. I do need to play more of the original games to sort of say how I feel about him there. But yeah, that's how I feel about Dante. And last one for the sort of video game / animation male characters is Ezio Auditore da Firenze. I've played all three Assassin's Creed games that he's been in. So you know what I'm going to be talking about here. He's a ladies' man, and he's very popular among the Assassin's Creed fandom. He's lovable. He has a very tragic sort of story behind how he became an assassin, but he does eventually get revenge against the people that killed his father and brothers. And even after that, he doesn't let revenge dominate him. He still finds a way to sort of be a ladies' man, and has a few very steamy moments in the games as well. And every time he fights, he's always fighting shirtless. So yeah, well, apart from Revelations where he's an old man. So yeah, that's probably for the best that they didn't do that for him there. So yeah, and he's Italian, and often people find Italians very attractive. So yeah, because it's kind of sort of a country of love in a way. But yeah. So that's all the fictional male and female characters that I like from animation and video games. So now we'll move on to actors and actresses, and I'm going to start with actors. And first up, we have Tom Holland. Now, Tom Holland as an actor, he's kind of flawless in a way, because there's not really anything controversial about him, and anything he's in, even if it's like the worst film in the world, he's always like the best part about it, because he always acts his socks off. And he was even acting before he became big as Spider-Man. But when he became Spider-Man, people loved and adored him. He's got an adorable face. He's got a good muscular build to him for a man of his age. And anytime I see him on Instagram, I just think he's adorable and cute. Yeah. And especially when he's shirtless and wearing glasses. Yeah. There's nothing more cute than that. And yeah, he's a flawless character. He's not had any controversy about him, and I think that's why people love him, because he's basically that. And he even wanted to have a steamy scene for a Spider-Man film, but ultimately never got that. The closest he really got to that was having a sort of steamy scene with MJ, which was played by Zendaya, who would eventually become his future girlfriend. I always knew there was going to be a thing between them, so yeah. And that's Tom Holland for you. Now, I hope I pronounced his name right. Next one is Timothy Chalamet. I probably have pronounced that wrong, so correct me in the comments if I have. But anyway, Timothy Chalamet, I think as an actor, the only thing I really find attractive about him that I have a crush on is his face. He's just got a cute, adorable face. And the stuff I've seen him in, which has so far been the part 1 of Dune and Wonka, he's a good actor. He acts his socks off. I believe he's French as well, which is another sort of love language in a way. But yeah, that's Timothy Chalamet. Quite good looking for a character, for an actor. Bit of a slender build, not very muscular, but that's okay. Not every person has to be muscular. But yeah, I like him. Cameron Monaghan. So you might not know this name if you've not seen Gotham or played the more recent Star Wars games by EA, but he is an actor that people have seen him play the Joker in Gotham and a Jedi in the two Jedi games that EA have created recently. He is a bit more serious than the two others I previously mentioned, but he is an actor that can play a good villain and a good hero, and takes his acting very seriously. Not serious to the point where he's being a method actor. Serious more like he's just trying to do the best he can. And many people have said that he should be Harry Osborn. Should the people behind the Spider-Man video games ever pursue that? So that's him. So that's Cameron Monaghan. So a guy that I kind of fell in love with the first time I saw him shirtless was Michael B. Jordan. I fell in love with him because he has got a good physique and he takes acting seriously, and he just looks like he's gonna kiss someone every time he puts his lips together. He's just that handsome and good looking. And all the stuff I've seen him in, so the Creed films and the Black Panther films, he is one of the best things about those films because he acts well, he plays a good villain, he plays a good hero. Um, I don't particularly like him in the Fantastic Four film he was in, but then again, that whole film was quite rubbish, personally. That's just me. But yeah, Michael B. Jordan, wonderful actor and alright guy. So you might not know this name, Troy Baker, but you might know the roles that he's played. He is a voice actor. He's done a lot of different roles for various video games. In more recent years, he's been the voice and face of the main protagonist in the Middle-earth games that were published by WE Games. He also was the face of the protagonist of the last infamous game, Second Son, and he has voiced various Batman characters, including Joker and Two-Face on many occasions, even Batman himself in some occasions too. And I don't really know if there's any. Oh yeah, and he was the voice of Booker DeWitt in BioShock Infinite. So you may not know his voice, but if you see his face, you kind of think that he's in his sort of 30s, but he's actually older than he looks. So he's kind of like Keanu Reeves in a way, where he doesn't age, but nevertheless, he does have a quite lovable face, and that's why I have a crush on him. And I think, and there's not many photos on the internet of him shirtless, but the few I've seen of him, he doesn't have like the most muscular body in the world. It's a bit more slender again, but he's all right for an actor. And again, flawless, no flaws about him as far as I know. So yeah. Now going to an actor that is muscular and probably has very believable muscles and is not doing it on drugs or anything, is Ryan Reynolds. Now, Ryan Reynolds is an interesting actor in the sense that his acting kind of started off not very well. He was appearing in a lot of really bad comic book films, and you could probably guess the comic book films I'm referring to. And then he eventually managed to become Deadpool, and people started loving him again. And what I find interesting about him as a person is that he, as far as I know, he's straight, heterosexual, whatever you want to call it, but the way he talks and the way he acts, he sounds more like he could be like me, pansexual, or not. I don't know. But nevertheless, I think he's good looking. He's had moments where he's shown off flesh. I wish his acting career started off better by appearing in better films. I'm glad he is starting to appear in much better films these days. That's Ryan Reynolds. So I forgot who was there. Next is Henry Cavill, another person who I believe whose muscular build is very believable. I think he's all right as Superman, and I think he's all right as Geralt. He is a gamer. He's into video games, and I just love every time he's on the screen appearing shirtless because he is very good looking, handsome, muscular, and as one lady said in Man of Steel, kind of hot. And yeah, I do believe that. I'm not sure if I'd say he was the best Superman in the world, but he definitely managed to get the franchise going with his good looks. So yeah, and I've seen him in things before he appeared as the Man of Steel, but he's definitely much more good looking as the Man of Steel and Geralt than probably anything else he's been in. So yeah, that's Henry Cavill. So you might remember a show called Riverdale on Netflix, and the main character is a character called Archie, whatever you want to call him, Archie, I think. And he's played by an Australian actor called KJ Apa. Now, KJ is quite cute and good looking, and he's got a bit of a muscular build for a man of his age. He's actually younger than me, in his sort of mid to late 20s, I believe. But nevertheless, he's definitely fun, good looking, and I think he's a good actor. So yeah, that's him. Now Taylor Lautner, yes, the Twilight guy that seems that for some reason has to be shirtless for the whole time, and that's probably why I love him, because he's always he's muscular, good looking. He's shirtless for for most of his films, except for the ones where he's quite young in them, like not like 18 or anything, much younger than that. But I like him. Yeah. Yeah, there's not really much I'm able to say about some of these people. It's just based on looks and so forth. That's why I like them. But anyway, excuse me. Moving on is Grant Gustin. So I think it's pretty obvious that when people think of the Flash, Grant Gustin's the one that they like more, because he's a good Flash, and there's not much controversy about him. There's lots that people like about him, and he is the best Flash that we've ever had. Although the voices in the animated stuff is good as well, but yeah, he's a good Flash. And I love how he talks. He just sounds so adorable, and he's a good singer as well. And often people like good singers when they have a crush on someone. So that's Grant Gustin. Next is Jake Gyllenhaal, and I hope I'm pronouncing his surname right. So this is a guy that's much older than me, but he's got a cute face, and he's got a cute face. He's got a good build about him. He's been in a lot of amazing films, not just Brokeback Mountain, but a lot of other amazing, great films. So yeah, and yeah, he's great in everything I see him in, and I wish he was more funny in some of the serious stuff he's in, because he does come across to me as a sort of comedy type. But his dramatic roles are pretty good as well. So yeah, that's Jake Gyllenhaal. Returning to Marvel in a way, Tom Hiddleston. Lots of ladies loved Tom Hiddleston as Loki when he was initially Loki to begin with, and I love him as Loki as well. And he may not have like the biggest build in the world compared to other Marvel stars, excuse me, but he's lovable. He has a nice smile. His British accent's quite adorable as well. Posh, a bit posh, but yeah, Tom Hiddleston, great actor and lovable to a lot of people. Stephen Amell is another one I quite like. Not just by his muscles, but his smile, the way he goes about being a father, and he was great as Green Arrow. He's arguably one of the best actors to have ever been a DC hero ever, even though it was on a small screen. But nevertheless, he was good as that. I hear these days that he is doing sort of wrestling stuff these days. But as an actor, he's good, and he is very good looking. But he's already been taken. But still, nevertheless, good looking, scruffy, hard, and all that other stuff. And definitely the right person to have played the Green Arrow. And the last one on the male list there is James McAvoy. Now, for a while, I thought James McAvoy was British, but actually he was Scottish. And I actually first heard his usual regular accent on an episode of Top Gear, where he was the star in the Reasonably Priced Car. I'm trying to remember if it's Clarkson's era or someone else's era, but nevertheless, he was a star in a Reasonably Priced Car at one point. He's good as an actor. He's quite good looking. Doesn't have like a big muscular build, but he does talk very well when he's playing a British character or a character of British heritage. And I think he's an amazing actor. He can definitely do British, calm, collective types, but then on the other hand, he can also do other stuff too, like being a madman and all sorts of other stuff. So yeah, that's James McAvoy. Right, we're nearly there. So the last list I'm going to go through is actresses that I have a crush on, and the first of them is Elizabeth Olsen. Now, it's never easy to be in the shadow of twin sisters that have been big for quite a long time. But it's thanks to Marvel that Elizabeth Olsen is now just as big, if not bigger, than her sisters, in a sense of stardom. Um, and I like her looks. I like her as an actress. She does act well in a lot of things, and I like her sort of wit and sass about her. And she doesn't take life too seriously, and I love all that. Um, and yeah, that's all there is to it. She's good at what she does. I need to see her in more than just the MonsterVerse and Marvel films, but she's definitely great in all the stuff I've seen her do so far. So that's her. Everybody has this next person on their list at the moment, and it's Margot Robbie. Yeah, Margot Robbie is probably the hottest person on the planet at the moment. She's been in Harley Quinn. She was Barbie in last year's biggest film of the year, I'm guessing, or most successful film last year. And she's done a few dramatic roles as well, and she's just so gorgeous. She's so good looking, and hardly any flaws about her. People love her, and when I was reading up about how she was approached to play Harley Quinn, I was so happy that she decided to spend a lot of time researching the character and didn't do it from a script or anything. She actually went out of her way to become Harley Quinn, and she is Harley Quinn to me in the physical form. She'll never quite beat the people that voiced her in video games and cartoons and so forth, but as playing her physically, she is Harley Quinn, and I can't think of anybody else to play her. As for Barbie, lots of other people could have played the stereotypical Barbie, but she plays it really well. And yeah, she's just gorgeous, I think, as one of the hottest stars in the world right now. Sticking with sort of DC actresses, next is Gal Gadot. Now, Gal Gadot physically might not have a sort of build that many men might find attractive, but her face is the thing that really strikes me. It's a face that looks like she's about to kiss someone, and it's always sort of a nice, sort of composed face to see. And she's not one for controversy or anything. She doesn't appear to be stressed. She just gets on, behaves in a professional way, and I just love her for it. And she's one of the few actresses from DC that didn't quite bear it all, but did sort of bear it all in an advert for something. I know Margot Robbie also bared it all at one point as well, but yeah, I like Gal Gadot too, and I think she's just an amazing person, one that's very composed and all that other stuff. So yeah. And next is Scarlett Johansson. Now I know Scarlett Johansson had to do some work on her face to sort of become the pretty person that she is, but she's still pretty. She's pretty, good looking, takes her work very seriously, and she just comes across as the sort of person that you could go out for drinks with and have a good time. She has done a lot of, before becoming Black Widow, she had done a lot of romantic films beforehand, and she's one of the few actresses that has never really bared it all, or has bared it all as much as other people have done. So yeah, she definitely has some standards, and I think that's one of the big things people like her. She has standards. She doesn't take any nonsense, and she's great at anything she does, even if it's like the worst film in the world. So that's Scarlett Johansson. So returning to British territory, next is Keira Knightley. Now I've had a crush on Keira Knightley since I was in my teens. Put aside the fact that she's a very slim person, I like her face. I think she's gorgeous. I think she's cute. I like how British she sounds, especially because she has a sort of posh British accent. And I like the roles that she plays. In the Pirates of the Caribbean films, she's good. In Bend It Like Beckham, she's good. In Love Actually, she's good. I think in Pirates of the Caribbean, there were moments where it did kind of feel like the screenwriters and writers really wanted her to bear it all, but it being a Disney film, she couldn't do that. Wouldn't have mind seeing that. But she has had moments where she does bear it all. Not as much moments as others, like the other actresses I'm mentioning in this list, but yeah, she's another one to watch. Sticking with British actresses, although this one is sort of American as well. Hayley Atwell. Um, Hayley Atwell is known to many people as Peggy Carter in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But apart from that, she's done a lot of great stuff, and I think as far as British women go, she is very attractive. I love her smile. I love her smile. I love her wit. I love her. I love how the way she just goes about life. Yeah, so much to love about Hayley Atwell. So that's her. So next, I'm gonna. So it was difficult to pick a star from Harry Potter to put in this video, but ultimately I decided to go with Emma Watson. Now, of all the actresses in Harry Potter, Emma Watson comes across as a very intelligent type. She's very intelligent, smart, good looking. She also speaks fluent French as well, which I guess kind of meant that she had to be cast as Belle in Beauty and the Beast, even though anybody could have played Belle. But nevertheless, I think she's a very attractive person. I was torn between another Harry Potter actress, but I went with her on the basis that I just think she's fun, smart, good looking, and has already made it clear that she already is in love with another person already. But that's fine. She's an amazing person, that Emma Watson. So if you've ever seen any American sort of horror thing like American Horror Story or Scream Queens, or even the odd film like Wild Child and so forth, then you probably would have heard the name Emma Roberts. Now, the first time I saw Emma Roberts, I didn't think much of her, but as I started watching all these things, I think I then started to get attracted to Emma Roberts. She's good looking. She's got a good build. She doesn't have like big Botox slits, but she does have a big mouth, and which she uses really well, like really, really well. And she does have a bit of controversy around her, but not as bad as some other famous, well-known, and very attractive women out there. But I do like her as an actress, and I just wish she did more than just stuck to horror. But she's good in horror, and I would like to see her more stuff. But she is good in horror, and everything else she's in, even if it's in the worst film in the world again. So yeah, and TV show, because she does TV shows. So it was difficult to pick someone from Doctor Who to be on this list, but eventually I ended up with Jenna Coleman, because while Billie Piper, while I do feel attracted to Billie Piper, Freema Agyeman, Karen Gillan, whoever plays Yasmin Khan from Doctor Who, and others as well, Jenna Coleman's the one I fancy the most, because I just love her charm, I love her composure, I love her smile, I love how she takes no nonsense, and I just love how determined she was in the role she was in Doctor Who, where she just actually entered the Doctor's time stream to sort of save him. And she was very dedicated to that role, and I think anything she's in, she's very good. So yeah, that's Jenna Coleman. So, Game of Thrones time. Emilia Clarke. Now, Emilia Clarke to me might come across to some people as a sort of person you'd see as a sister, but to me she's more of a girlfriend material, and I know she's a little bit older than me, but I do like her. She's quite good looking, and she's actually has said that she'll only ever do nude scenes if it matters to her character arc or story, which is always a good thing to do. And I guess up until the final season of Game of Thrones, she was the best thing about Game of Thrones to me, as well as Kate Harington as well. But she was like the main thing that I liked about Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones is full of nude people, full of people that have been sexually abused, and all sorts of stuff in the show. And she was one of the sexually abused people, but she defied it, she got on with it, and I love her for it. And I don't really think I've seen her do well in other things besides Game of Thrones. I mean, she was okay in Solo and she was alright in Secret Invasion, but Game of Thrones to me was her best role, and yeah, I love her for that. So yeah. So an actress that's not been on screen for quite some time now is Jessica Alba. When she was on screen, she was one of the hottest people on the planet. She had a few times where she did show a bit of flesh in the Fantastic Four films, and some people will say that when she does nude scenes, it's actually not her doing the nude scenes. It's just her one of her stunt doubles doing it with her face slapped onto that face. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but yeah, she's a gorgeous looking person, and she may not be the best actress in the world, but she does well in all the parts I've seen her do. I think the last film I saw her do was Sin City: A Dame to Kill For, and she was actually alright in that one. So yeah. So next is Natalie Dormer. Now this actress has appeared in a lot of things. She's done probably more nude or sex scenes than anybody else that I've got on this list, which is one of the reasons why I love her, because she is one that just does it, doesn't care what people think. She just gets on with what she needs to do, and yeah, she's quite an attractive lady, got a good build to her. Has been in so many things, including Tudors, Hunger Games, Game of Thrones as well. And those were like the main three things I saw in. So that's her. We're nearly done, I promise. Next is Amanda Seyfried. Or Seyfried. I can't remember. Amanda S. Let's go with that. So this lady I first saw in Mamma Mia when my mum and my sister and my late sister decided to take me to go see it because they insisted I go and see it with them. Help. And she's a very attractive person. She's gorgeous, good looking, great singer. And although she does play sort of bitchy characters in other things she's been in, she is what she is, and yeah, not much else I can say about her. And the last one I'm going to talk about is Kristen Bell. Now, you might not be familiar with Kristen Bell if you've been around since Frozen's been around, but you will know the voice because she voices Anna in that film, and she has done a lot of other things as well. And I actually kind of like her more because she's quite attractive, good looking, and often has a frown on her face, but is always in something that's pretty good. Yeah, she's done a lot of stuff in her time, and she's another person that's not aged, that doesn't look like she's aged at all, even though I think she's in her early 40s now. But yeah, so that's it. That is my list of crushes. You might have your own favourite crushes, and may not be able to explain why you like them so much. So if you have your own sort of crushes on fictional characters or real life people, leave them in the comments below. And apart from that, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then please like, share, comment and subscribe. See you next one. Peace to you all. Have a good Valentine's Day, whatever you decide to do. And remember, you don't always have to pursue your crushes. If you just have a crush and you don't want to pursue it, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. If you do have a crush and do want to pursue it, also fine. Nothing wrong with that. And if you just want to tell the person you've got a crush on them and don't want to go any further than that, also fine. It's fine to have a crush on someone. It's fine to tell someone that you have a crush on them. And it's also fine to try and pursue it, but don't expect them to suddenly say yes just like that. You might need to sort of warm to it, get them to trust you more, and all that stuff. So yeah. Alright. You take care now, and toodles.